We were farthest away that you could ever think. Drugs, alcohol, porn. Uh, it was part of our lives.
So glad the Lord chose us, found us, and changed us. And glad He didn't leave us where we was, and so happy He's not going to leave us where we're at. Once the Lord got our attention to the foolishness of preaching at one of the local churches, or for me anyways, and I started turning towards Him. He uses the weak and the foolish to draw the world in, and I was king among them.
My daughter come to me and says, "Mom, you really need to get away from the business. I was tired. I was selling pipes, tobacco products, porn, adult items, but still I wasn't yet committed. I still wanted to be, money. I'll tell you, when you own an adult store, the money's there. Yeah, that was hard. That was hard to walk away from that. And I wasn't ready. I was around drugs all the time. People were coming in messed up. And my daughter says, "Mom, that's not what you want. Why did you open a coffee shop?" And I said no. And he kept saying yes, that the Lord was pushing him to do it. And I'm like, no. We looked, and finally I looked up and I said, "Okay, Lord, if you want me to have this coffee shop and you want me to do this, you better put it in my lap, because I'm done,
Next morning phone call.
And she said, "I've heard you've been looking for a building, and I know you want to buy. I have a building." And I said, "But I heard you were only wanting to rent it." She said, "No, the Lord's telling me that I need to sell it to you." We bought the building in September. We were able to move into it the 1st of October. We couldn't sell anything because of, we weren't state approved yet for the license and all. And we started just giving food away, studying and learning how to make drinks and stuff. And I said, "Babe, we're not going to make it. If we can't get the support from the town, we're not going to make it." And that was on a Saturday.
She went down the list. She said, if we don't get support from our friends, from our family, from our church, from our community, we ain't going to make it, because we're going to starve to death at this rate. And I'm going to say that, just once again, for the sake of argument, this was like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. By 9:30, we'd waited on our third customer that said, we was traveling through town looking for a coffee shop. Do y'all know you're not on the internet? So after the third person said that, they found us by blind luck, I turned to Lori and I said, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "What?" I said, "Our help's coming from the Lord."
My granddaughter brought the first homeless in, and she brought him in, and we fed him and got him, blankets and everything, and it just opened up a whole door. Back when the COVID hit, people were panicking because most of these, children were only getting food from the schools, and some of these kids weren't eating. So I asked him, I said, "Hey, why don't we start delivering? Let's just start feeding all the kids." And we got a hold of 7 different churches in the area, and they all volunteered to drive their vans to all the low-income, areas. So between March 17th and June 2nd, we gave out about 22,400 meals. For each bag that we gave out had 4 meals. And that was because of all the donations from the community, the churches. It was like came together so quick. When we pass out the food, We make sure that everybody knows that they're loved. We want them to know if they need something, don't hesitate to ask. I don't care if you're, been addicted to drug, you're a stripper, was in porn, whatever. We're going to love them because we know what it felt like to be not loved. We know how it felt to be, pushed aside. So we don't want no one to feel that.
In Paul's letters, one of our biggest testimonies is unity, and that's unity in the body of Christ, the church. So, and it's not vertical church. It's not Elizabeth Chapel Church. It's not First Baptist, Missionary Baptist. It is the entire body of Christ. And I think that when he's seen that unity in our community, I think that he rewarded it.